10-month-old Emmelie Barringer's death has triggered outrage nationwide.
Candles glowing and lifted up to honor 10-month-old baby Emmelie Barringer. Hundreds covered the Jackson County Courthouse lawn tonight. Many who didn't know baby Emmelie, but came to show their support for her family and those who loved her.
Emmelie suffered extensive bleeding. Authorities say the evidence indicates a violent sexual assault, shaking or striking the face.
She wasn't just the youngest in the house, she was the heart of it. Loved endlessly by her mother, cherished by her brothers and sister, this tiny warrior had arrived 8 weeks ahead of schedule, already proving her strength from day one. But while her family slept peacefully one night, unaware of the darkness creeping in, something unspeakable was about to unfold.
She couldn't know what was going on. And she started making the gurgling sound.
Was she breathing normally?
No.
In a phone call played for the jury, you can hear her talking to Taylor, begging for an explanation.
I won't lie, this is one of the most disturbing and deeply unsettling cases I've ever come across. Consider this a warning. What you're about to hear isn't easy, and for some, it might be too much to bear.
Emmelee's story reached far beyond the Ripley community to groups like CASA, court-appointed special advocates, and guardians of the children, which make it their mission to give victims of abuse a voice and make people aware of how much child abuse exists in our society.
As sad as this situation is, this is a way to bring to the forefront how much child abuse is out there in our world. She was a beautiful young lady, and I can't imagine the pain that the family is going through right now. And that's why we're here. We're just here to support the family through their terrible loss. So I just can't imagine.
The man who would eventually harm this innocent little girl was, for years, a master manipulator, hiding behind a carefully constructed mask. For so long, he pretended to be someone he wasn't, and no one saw it coming. His name would later be tied to one of the most shocking crimes ever witnessed involving a child. This is the story of Emmelie Barringer. Emmelie was born on Thanksgiving Day 2015, a date already sacred, made even more special by her arrival. She came into the world 8 weeks early, tiny and fragile, but full of life. To her mother, Amanda Adkins, she was a miracle, a smiling, sweet-natured baby who rarely cried and seemed to radiate joy. She wasn't alone. Emmelie had 3 older siblings, a 7-year-old brother named Nathaniel, a 6-year-old sister named Carly, and a 2-year-old brother, Cameron. They loved playing with her, and she adored every second spent in their company. By the time she was 10 months old, Emmelie was beginning to walk and had just started babbling her first few words. Her family was smitten. In the summer of 2016, Amanda decided it was time for a change. Their home on the outskirts of Baltimore, Maryland, didn't feel safe, and she longed for a better life for her children. So she packed up and moved to the quieter, greener lands of West Virginia. It felt like a fresh start, a new beginning. Soon after the move, Amanda met a man named Benjamin Taylor, though most people just called him Benji. From the moment they met, Benji swept Amanda off her feet. He was charming, attentive, always around her and the kids, acting like he belonged. To Amanda, he seemed like a dream, the perfect partner, the missing piece in her little family's life. She fell hard and fast. By August 2016, Benji had shared a photo on Facebook of the two of them kissing. Just days later, on September 7th, he officially changed his relationship status to in a relationship with Amanda Adkins. But behind that social media romance was a different man entirely. Benji had a criminal history, including burglary convictions and multiple parole violations. Still, only a few months into knowing each other, Amanda let him move in with her and the children. Then came the night of October 2nd. Amanda and her 3 older children went to bed around 9 p.m., settling in for what they thought would be an ordinary night. Benji, however, decided to stay up a little longer. He said he wasn't tired, just like little Emmelie, who was quietly sitting in her swing in the living room. At some point, Benji went down to the basement, supposedly to do laundry. He took Emmelie with him, telling Amanda he'd finish chores and listen to some music. Hours passed. Around 4 a.m., Amanda woke up and instinctively peeked into Emile's crib. It was empty, so was the bed beside her. Benji was gone too. Thinking maybe they had both fallen asleep downstairs, maybe on the couch, or with Emmelie still in her swing, she quietly headed to the living room. But it was empty. That's when she remembered. Benji had mentioned doing laundry in the basement. Amanda slowly made her way down the stairs, but nothing could have prepared her for what she was about to see. What she found in that basement was so horrifying it would haunt her forever. Amanda walked into the dimly lit basement, expecting nothing out of the ordinary, but what she saw made her freeze in place. There was Benji, shirtless, kneeling over her young daughter. His pants were undone. For a second, the low light blurred reality, and Amanda couldn't fully grasp what she was seeing. Confused, she asked what he was doing. Benji, shockingly calm, claimed he was just cleaning Emmelie up. But Amanda's heart sank. Why would he be doing that down here, in the middle of the night? As she stepped closer, the horrifying truth came into focus. Emile's face, it didn't look right. Amanda rushed forward and saw blood smeared across her daughter's face. The little girl was barely conscious, cold to the touch, with strange gurgling noises coming from her throat. Amanda's instincts kicked in. She scooped Emmelie into her arms and slapped Benji hard across the face, screaming, "What did you do to her?" She ran upstairs, hands trembling, and dialed 911. Through sobs and fury, she told the dispatcher her daughter was hurt, badly, and something was very wrong. Her voice cracked as she cried, repeating over and over that she was sure Benji had done something unforgivable. In the background of the 911 recording, Amanda can be heard screaming at Benji, cursing him, demanding answers. Why was she like that? What did you do? The trauma Emmelie suffered, according to paramedics, had likely happened hours before anyone made the emergency call. The autopsy report revealed extensive injuries, the kind that told a heartbreaking story of cruelty and force. She had also suffered severe head trauma, consistent with being struck or thrown against a hard surface. Her official cause of death was a skull fracture. Benji Taylor was arrested almost immediately. At first, he was charged with first-degree sexual assault.
A Cottageville man accused of the rape and murder of 10-month-old Emmelie Barringer appears in court before a judge in Jackson County. Cameras were not permitted in the courtroom, but we did get this video of Taylor shackled and wearing a helmet and bulletproof vest as he was walking in and out of court. The purpose of this latest hearing was to check the status of the case and schedule a new trial date.
But after the autopsy findings came in, the charges were upgraded to intentional murder. During police interrogation, Benji claimed he didn't remember much. He admitted carrying Emmelie into the basement, but said he blacked out afterward. The last thing he remembered? Doing laundry. He said he drank 8 beers that day and smoked some marijuana with Amanda. Yet the deputy sheriff who first arrived noted Benji didn't appear intoxicated at all. Benji also claimed he had several blackout episodes, some lasting 30 minutes, others possibly 6 hours. He said he didn't even remember trying to clean up, or the fact that blood had been washed down the basement sink. But one thing was clear. In those critical hours, Benji didn't do a single thing to save Emile's life. Instead, he left a trail of pain that Amanda, and everyone who loved Emmelie, would carry forever. As detectives dug deeper into the case, their attention turned to Benji's phone, and what they discovered left them stunned. Between 2:52 and 3:17 a.m., Benji had been actively searching for legal adult content. While a child lay severely injured in the same home, this man was casually browsing the internet, as if nothing was wrong. But that wasn't all. At exactly 4:54 a.m., Benji's phone recorded a 9-second outgoing call. The number was saved under the name Home. Just 6 minutes later, the ambulance pulled into the driveway, a disturbing timeline that would later become a key piece of the investigation. And then came another twist. After the paramedics had arrived, Benji received a message from his brother. It was simple. "Is everything okay?" Benji's reply was chilling. "I'm in deep justo, bro, but don't sweat it. I'm going to croak soon." Meanwhile, investigators at the scene were documenting what could only be described as a nightmare. Bloodstains were found across the basement, on the bedding, on clothing, and even smeared in different places. A search warrant was issued to seize the very clothes Benji had worn that night. Authorities also collected a DNA sample for forensic analysis. Benji was immediately taken into custody and held at the South Central Regional Jail. The court did not take any chances. Bail was set at $2 million, and public outrage exploded. On October 5, 2016, a petition emerged online, a bold and emotional call for Benjamin Taylor to be publicly hanged. Within days, it had gathered a storm of signatures from citizens horrified by the details of the case, but despite the passionate response, the petition was eventually removed. Years passed, and finally, in March 2019, the trial began. For 5 long days, the courtroom became a stage for one of the most gut-wrenching trials in West Virginia's recent history. And through every second of it, Benji sat silently, wearing a bulletproof vest, a helmet, and handcuffs. The prosecution came in strong with evidence, but what surprised many were the witnesses who came forward to speak in Benji's defense. One by one, people from his past took the stand. Friends, family, even the mother of his child. His brother's girlfriend described Benji as a calm and supportive man, someone who had been there for her during pregnancy and had helped while her boyfriend battled health problems. She insisted he'd always been good with her son and had never acted inappropriately. Then came Brenna Garnes, the mother of Benji's son. She told the court that Benji would play with her daughter, that he'd always treated children kindly. She even claimed that when he drank, he became withdrawn, not aggressive, not Sewell. And then, the sentence that silenced the room. I could never imagine in my life that he was capable of what he's being accused of. But for the families grieving, these statements felt like a slap in the face. How could anyone defend the actions of a man on trial for such a horrific crime? Still, Benji's father took the stand. And what he said shocked the courtroom even more. "I'm proud of my son," he told the jury, standing firm despite everything. He insisted Benji had never shown cruelty or deviance. He painted a picture of a gentle boy, not a monster. Then he recalled the morning of October 3, 2016, when his wife woke him in a panic, and they rushed to Amanda's house. He said Amanda, the child's mother, remained calm during the ride to the hospital, never angry, never panicked. But that version of the story didn't match what first responders had reported. In court, the prosecution played audio of Amanda, sobbing, hysterical, utterly shattered.
In a phone call played for the jury, you can hear her talking to Taylor, begging for an explanation.
A raw, gut-wrenching clip from the hospital where her daughter was declared brain dead. And just when the courtroom couldn't feel more tense, Benji's mother, Rita Taylor, interrupted, loudly claiming Amanda had only been pretending to cry. Her outburst sent a wave of discomfort through the room. Finally, Benji's brother, Zachary Taylor, quietly offered a statement. He kept it short, simply saying that Benji had been a positive influence on his own children and that he couldn't believe his brother was capable of such evil. But despite all the words spoken in his defense, the facts told a different story. And as the trial inched toward its conclusion, one question echoed in everyone's minds. Was any of it enough to excuse what had already been done? Benji's mother, Rita, took the stand with a heart full of memories, painting a picture of a gentle, loving son. She spoke softly about how he doted on his own child, his nephew, and other kids in their family. He was, in her words, kind, nurturing, never someone capable of what he was being accused of. But there was a moment she couldn't explain. On the morning of October 3rd, she received a phone call. It was Benji. He told her he loved her, and then, without another word, he hung up. The prosecution pressed her with a difficult question. If Benji had truly found an injured child in his arms and realized what had happened, would he have called 911? Rita nodded. Yes, she said, her voice firm. So then, why was it Amanda and not Benji who eventually called for help? Only after she stumbled into that horrific scene herself. That question hung heavy in the courtroom. Then came the recordings. In one of them, played for the jury, Benji's voice echoed from behind prison walls. Calmly, he said he hadn't known the child was bleeding, not until someone else told him, but in another clip, his tone changed. "I'm not afraid to take punishment for what I did," he confessed. The weight of that sentence sank into the room like lead. When Benji took the stand himself, he painted a different story. He claimed he was trying to bond with little Emmelie, that he had real plans for a life with Amanda. He wanted marriage, a future, a new beginning. And every time he entered Emile's room, he said, she would greet him with that sweet, innocent smile. But the prosecution wasn't finished. They asked Benji whether he would ever joke about hurting someone during sec. He answered quickly, "Never." But then they brought the receipts, a series of Facebook screenshots right there on the courtroom screens, posts laced with sexual innuendo, memes trivializing violence in the bedroom, and one disturbing status he'd proudly made his profile cover: "I will never apologize for being a sec freak." That silence in the courtroom grew even thicker. The forensic evidence followed. Blood, Emile's blood, was found soaked into the bedding and smeared across the basement floor. There were traces in her diaper. Salmon, likely from a male, was detected. Examinations revealed further evidence of sexual abuse, and on Benji's pants from that night, male DNA. The facts, laid bare, were gut-wrenching, but the defense wasn't giving up without a fight. They called a woman named Barbara Kay, Amanda's former neighbor. Barbara lived in the unit next door, sharing a wall with Amanda's house. On the night of the attack, she'd gone to bed early, but around 12:30 a.m., she was jolted awake by the sound of a child crying, not just crying, but screaming in desperation.
A verdict of the jury: you have been found guilty of the offense of murder in the first degree. It's contained in count 2 of the indictment. Guilty of death of a child by child abuse, as contained in count 3 of the indictment. And sexual abuse by a guardian. Whether that verdict was then.
Family members here telling us finally they feel that justice for baby Emmelie has been served. Sentencing in this case.
After a long and painful trial, the jury delivered its verdict, and with it, a sentencing recommendation that would change everything: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Benjamin Taylor was sentenced to spend the rest of his life behind bars. For the intentional murder of a child through abuse, he received a life sentence. On top of that, he was handed 40 years for child abuse and an additional 10 to 20 years for sexual abuse of a child under his care. A $55,000 fine was also imposed. These sentences wouldn't run at the same time. They'd be served back to back, one after the other. No escape, no early release. And yet, something unexpected happened inside the courtroom. For the first time since the trial began, Benjamin Taylor finally cracked. Up until then, he had sat stone-faced, cold, distant, unaffected. Not once did he react to the heart-wrenching testimony or the horrific evidence displayed on the courtroom screen. Not even the gut-wrenching photos of little Emile's broken body could draw emotion from him, but as the sentence was read aloud, Benjamin Taylor suddenly broke down in tears. Was it guilt, regret, or simply fear of never walking free again? Judge Tatterson delivered the jury's verdict with grave clarity. You have been found guilty of intentional murder, of killing a child as a result of abuse, and of sexual abuse by a guardian. A devastating list of charges, each one heavier than the last. And one can't help but wonder, was the jury's decision unanimous? Inside the courtroom, members of Emile's family sat together. Their faces were solemn, yet there was a flicker of peace in their eyes. For them, justice had finally been served. But not everyone was ready to accept the outcome. Benjamin's defense attorney quickly announced plans to file an appeal. He claimed that vital evidence had been overlooked by the jury and that his client never received a fair shot at justice. Still, the ripple of this tragic case didn't stop at the courtroom doors. In April of 2017, just months after the trial, West Virginia Governor Jim Justice signed a new law, Emile's Law. Named in honor of the little girl whose life was stolen too soon, the legislation brought stricter punishments for anyone convicted of child abuse that ends in death. But before the law, before the courtroom, before the world knew Emile's name, there was only grief. On October 7, 2016, hundreds of people gathered in Pasadena, Maryland to remember her. It was a candlelight vigil, a sea of glowing lights flickering under the dark sky. They came from nearby towns, communities, and churches, all to honor a child they didn't know but could never forget. Emile's relatives stood silently in T-shirts printed with her bright, smiling face. They asked for privacy, for space to grieve, but they also shared heartfelt thanks to every single person who showed love and stood beside them in their pain. Emmelie Barringer was laid to rest on Sunday, October 16, 2016. The funeral was held at the Macaulay Poliniak Funeral Home in Pasadena. Her final resting place is Glen Haven Memorial Park in Glen Burnie, where she now sleeps beneath the trees, forever remembered. And that brings us to the end of Emile's tragic story, a nightmare no parent should ever live through. A case that chills the soul, one that makes you question how evil can hide so easily behind a smile. What kind of monster does this to a baby? Benjamin Taylor masked his twisted cruelty so convincingly that even those who stood up for him in court believed he was a good man. But beneath that mask was someone capable of the unthinkable. Little Emmelie died the most horrific, painful death imaginable, and it's something I still can't wrap my head around. If this story moved you, I encourage you to leave a comment below. Let's keep Emile's memory alive, and don't forget to subscribe for more true crime investigations. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.